I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you. Hi everyone, I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today I'm here with Moshe Segal. Moshe is a LinkedIn consultant, helping his clients stand out in a creator-filled market by owning their unique talents and personality and connecting that to their ideal audience's needs. I was lucky enough to meet Moshe very recently, I guess last week, involved in a LinkedIn challenge, and so thought it would be great to have him on the podcast and kind of talk about that, your LinkedIn expertise. But first, let me just start by saying thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. And why don't you just give us a little bit of your background, kind of tell us where you came from, and then certainly we'll talk about LinkedIn. I think it'll be really valuable to anybody listening, whether they're in real estate or business, or honestly just trying to sort of build a career for themselves.
Totally, yeah. So probably did not take the classic, go to college for marketing and develop that into social media, eventually LinkedIn approach. I actually started as a rabbinic student. That's where my career started. Spent a bunch of years studying. Actually did my ordination in Israel, and super cool. Eventually ended up in Dallas, which is where my rabbinic career started. And part of that, actually interesting, I know this podcast often focuses on real estate. What ended up happening there was I kind of had a crowd of people that I had connected to, a younger crowd that we were building more of a social Jewish group with. And the area I was living where the Jewish community was very expensive. And it was really just too pricey for most young couples, young families to buy in. And myself and another guy said, hey, let's do something about this and let's go start another community somewhere else, which is, kind of a side topic relevant to LinkedIn. But in terms of, that's really caused me to create, we ended up, looking at different areas, trying to figure out where we would fit in, which is the right price and, low crime rates and good school district and all the different things you're thinking about when starting a community. And eventually we found a place. There's actually a place called Richardson, Texas. Anyone that knows DFW probably recognizes the name. And we started there, we started a community from the bottom up, and it was, we created our own nonprofit. And in terms of like growing and building, I mean, anyone who's ever a startup, basically, anyone ever done a startup, and probably similar if you're starting out in real estate on your own, when you're doing everything, right? You're doing your own marketing, you're doing your own operations, you're doing your own fundraising, you're doing your own from A to Z. It was me and a partner and our wives, and we built it from scratch, and it was really an amazing process. And that's really taught me a ton about just businesses, operations, marketing, all of these things. We were there for about 5 years, successfully built up a lot of areas of that. Eventually, for personal reasons, we ended up moving back towards family. My wife's from Baltimore. We're now in Silver Spring, Maryland. That's just out of DC. And I was kind of looking at where to go after that. What was my next step? And I was actually talking to a career consultant also, and she was giving me certain points and tips and stuff that she thought. And she mentioned a lot of the soft skills, what you're describing to me doesn't actually sound like a rabbi. It actually sounds like a professional marketer. And I'm like, that's so interesting. Like, where do you see that? And she pointed out all the various skills and projects that I showed her that I had worked on, and how if you just call it by a different name, which is basically what it was, that's really what I was doing. And I naturally I'm very tech savvy naturally, just good with computers, good at these types of things. I was active on LinkedIn myself for my own account and building kind of, highlighting my nonprofit and the community we were building. And so it really, honestly, in terms of LinkedIn, it's kind of funny how it started. I'll share quickly. Really, a friend of mine came over and said, hey, I saw you're active on LinkedIn. I know you're good with computers and technology, and I'm not. Can you help me with it? And he knew I was moving on, and I'm like, yeah, okay, sure, happy to help you. And he's like, well, maybe you can help me create content and stuff, and we'll post it and we'll see where it goes. He's actually in the construction side of commercial real estate. And And I said, sure, let's see where it goes. Like, look, I'll pay you a little bit, no commitment on either side, and let's see what happens. So for a couple months, I was still in Dallas then. I was still working my regular previous rabbinic job, started doing it on the side. And then slowly another friend heard, hey, I heard you doing this for this guy. Would you be open doing it for me? And soon it just kind of like evolved, and I was seeing success with it. I was getting people, raising their voices, getting them seen more, helping them create content that resonated with their audiences. And as I then moved to Maryland, I'm like, I think let me like network a little bit, see if there's like real potential here or not. Found some great people on LinkedIn itself that kind of were a few years ahead of me, which is always our goal on LinkedIn when we're networking is finding the right people and connecting to, helping people out that you could help out, and finding mentors for yourself and connect with people that can help you. So found the right people, and I wouldn't say the rest is history, because I think we're all kind of still in the process going forward. But that's kind of my background and how I got where I am today. So that was about a year ago. I've been doing this for about a year now, and still here.
Well, I mean, the history is still history is still being created, I guess, on that front. Super cool story. I mean, it's funny, you were building this community sort of out of a need, right? In Dallas, you decided it was too costly to be in one area, kind of. But I mean, ultimately, interesting that you met with that career consultant, and they said that's a marketing. You sound like someone who's a marketer, because I guess that's really what it is, right? Like that's the idea with, especially with social media, whether it's LinkedIn or you're essentially creating a community. That's the point, right? It's not.
There were so many parts of it that, like, I wasn't even like thinking in those terms, but like, hey, why would someone move into my community? I'm trying to get young families to move there to be part of this. That's number one. Number two, like, we worked with city council and different organizations to help us just get the infrastructure in place we needed. So it's explaining to them, hey, why is this good for the city of Richardson to have a strong Jewish community? That, like, there's so many parts of it that I wasn't even necessarily conscious of at the time,
Right.
but I had worked through all of those principles. And then the main one being like community building, people that are here, how are we taking care of our people? How are we helping them fill their needs? How are we helping them feel heard, growing, developing as families and stuff? And like, it's really just shifting that from a physical place to a online community, which is really very similar. It's trying to find your people online and connect with them in a real way, and really help each other, grow with each other, and support each other. And it's really not that different. It's surprising.
Yeah. I never would have thought of it in those terms, but as soon as you said that, and kind of that suggestion from them, like that makes total sense. I'm like, yes, that is literally the point of social media, is to create a community, right? And it's like it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter specifically what platform we're talking about, and the community structure might be a little bit different on LinkedIn versus Facebook versus Instagram or TikTok or whatever. But like the point is, you're trying to engage an audience and create your own community of I guess like-minded individuals. But so I would guess that you were using some level of social media while you were kind of making that move to Richardson. Was that a part of your strategy in creating the community there?
So it was part of it. A lot of it was we had built up like it was almost like a social group more strongly from Facebook was pretty big at that time. Okay. Again, we never really thought of it as like a business the same way. Like it was like that's almost like a reframe myself, how we viewed it. We viewed it more as like an ability to help, just people share their heritage together and connect with each other and create meaningful shared experiences. And it really, it evolved into a full nonprofit and stuff. But in its initial stages, yeah, it was Facebook. LinkedIn was not super big in this sense at that time. I kind of just promoted it there because I liked LinkedIn. But Facebook was probably the biggest one for that in terms of growth of the community. And then also it was like events, when you start putting together with people, and you probably experienced this also, is like once you get a certain reputation of, hey, Jason helped me with this deal, that person will tell his friend that he helped you, and you kind of like word spreads naturally once you start helping people. And that's part of the beauty of community building, is when you start providing value to people, people start associating you with that value. And then when their friends are talking to them and they need help, they're like, yeah, you should talk to Jason. Like, he's great in this asset class or whatever it comes up. Mm-hmm. So, we had great events, whatever it was, a holiday event or whatever it was, and people enjoyed it. And then the next time around the event, we're like, hey, why don't you guys bring your friends and let's keep expanding this kind of network outwards. And that was how a lot of the organic growth came also.
Yeah. I mean, it's really a fascinating structure, and like your friend that came to you and was like, I don't know how to use technology and can you help me? I mean, I feel like I'm that friend in a lot of ways. Like that's what's like why that LinkedIn challenge was something I really wanted to do. It was definitely outside my comfort zone, and it wasn't easy, but I think like super valuable in terms of the connections that you make and what it teaches you. But you took that to another level in that you've sort of created a business around it and helping people do that. So I guess, you said LinkedIn because you like LinkedIn. Are there things specific to LinkedIn that you think are better for, that community building, the business? Why LinkedIn? Why not something else? Some people say you should be on every platform. Like there's a lot of different, I guess, opinions, sort of directions that people push for, social media connections. What are your thoughts on that?
100%, 100%. Great point. First of all, a lot of times when you say, yeah, was it better to be on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn? Like, sure, you want to be in everything, like go be in everything. Like probably the more you get it out there, the better it'll be for you. Don't deny that. But for most people, especially people that are busy and they have their own businesses, they're running stuff, it's not practical. So you got to kind of pick what's the most effective usage of my time? What's the best place for me to spend my time? Where am I going to get the most value out of? So when you ask the question like that, the question is, okay, so which one is it? So there's a few things about LinkedIn, and one really big one that I think makes it very unique and stand out from the other social medias, especially in terms of networking and building a business. So obviously, it's more businessy in general, and people want that style for their business. It naturally fills that. But there's another amazing part of LinkedIn, and that really is the organic reach you get on LinkedIn, which is unique from other platforms. Like on Facebook in general, to use that as an example, the only people that will really see your content are people you're connected to. That's your friends that you're connected to. They'll see your content. They could like it or not like it, but it doesn't really get that same organic reach going outwards from there. Whereas on LinkedIn, let's say me and you were connected, so you make a post about some real estate deal you're working on, and now I comment on your post, and whatever I comment, my connections, which are not connected to you, some of them, however the algorithm determines, will see your post because they'll say, hey, you like Moshe Segal. He commented on this post, so this might be interesting to you. So you get that organic reach outwards. Now, if I'm connected, especially, if you have targeted connections to help you grow, that's part of, we could talk about that if you want, but that's why it's important to not just, connect anywhere. And yeah, if I'm some random person on the other side of the world who has nothing to do with your business, it won't help you that I comment on your post. But let's say I'm connected to other real estate investors and I'm part of those circles. When I comment on your post, that brings you now over to this whole other, network of people that you don't even know about, you're not connected to. And when you can build that up over time, LinkedIn is really unique in terms of the amount of organic people that your message can get that you don't even know about and you don't know who they are. And when you're building a business, that's super helpful. If you want to just like tell everyone what you ate for dinner and just share your life, sure, like you don't care for people you don't know to know about that necessarily. You just want to share with people that you know. But if you have a solution, or if you're trying to raise money or capital, let's say in real estate, or if you're trying, whatever you're trying to do, you have a certain solution you're providing as a business. You want everyone who you can solve their problems with to know about that. Sure. And LinkedIn is definitely the place to be to get organic spread beyond your personal network for that. That's a really, really cool part of LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I mean, that doing that challenge was a real eye opener for me personally, just in the level of it seems like, when used effectively or when used appropriately, it's tremendously effective. I mean, people just the people that have been doing it for a while, and like yourself and some of the other people in the challenge, like, they have so much engagement on their posts, so many people that are, seeing it. And it's like, you clearly have to put in the work, but it does seem to have the sort of desired effect in terms of, and like a measurable desired effect. Like you can literally look and see like, okay, there's all of this, outreach that's going on. When you,
I wanted to talk a little bit just like strategy wise. One of the things that I found interesting about the challenge was people would post tips or like the algorithm likes this or so, how do people know that? Like, how do you know what the algorithm likes? Maybe this is a stupid question, but I'm like, I kept thinking that's like, how do these people, clearly they know because it's working for them, but I'm like, how do you know what the right things
First of
to
all,
do
people
are?
like me waste too much time trying to figure these things out. That's probably the main answer to that question. But no, it is a good question. I want to add one caveat to something you said before, and then I'll come back to answer your question. Seeing a lot of engagement and a lot of things, just as especially if people are listening to this that haven't done this yet. First of all, you should just know that that's a long-term game. It takes time to build that up.
Yeah.
And it's not even really necessary. I tell this to people all the time, to clients all the time, like, even a post that gets poor engagement, you'll still be seen by hundreds of people. Like, you'll have 300 people that will see your post when you're starting off, even if you get 2 likes and a comment, and like, if you could get that in front of the right people, we don't need 5 million people to connect to for our businesses. We need a handful. A lot of businesses, you get 1 or 2 good partners, that's really all you need. So number one, I would just say is, don't get too caught up with the algorithm and all the numbers and the engagement. It's nice and it looks good, but there's a lot of people that are doing great business on LinkedIn that you don't even realize because they have small accounts, but they're good, they're targeted, they know what they're trying to get at. They've developed a brand recognition where people know them in terms of the solution and they're suggested accordingly. So I would say, there's a bigger picture strategy that you can use towards LinkedIn it's measurable in a different way. It's measurable more in terms of brand recognition and network power, more than just engagement. Like, you do a lot of silly posts that will get good engagement, but they'll associate you with, scrambled eggs for breakfast, not commercial real estate. So it's not going to help you. That said, there are a lot of tips and tools and tricks and stuff that help the algorithm. As a basic 101, what I always like to tell people is, first of all, like, don't spend all your time chasing these tips, honestly, because it's like, just get started and keep this in front of your mind. What am I doing? Like, be intentional. I'm very, in like all aspects of my life, like, I like being like intentional. Like, what's the goal of what I'm doing, right? Like, why am I on LinkedIn? Is it for likes and engagement? Okay, then there's a certain content you can post that will make that grow quicker. Is it to connect with people in a certain demographic, a certain place? So keep in mind what you're doing, right? And when you have in mind what you want to accomplish, then you can kind of filter out a lot of the other noise of what everyone's saying and what everyone else's accounts look like, and how, all the glitter and glitz that social media often brings along with it. So I would say focus on the most important thing to do. And this is often when I sit down with a new client, I do ghostwriting for clients. I also do just consulting and helping them figure out what's not working for them and how to make it work better. And one of the first things I always do is say, hey, let's concretize who is your ideal client or your ideal audience on LinkedIn. Who are you trying to reach? You just want, like, we don't need everyone in the world to know you. We need a certain person who you want to be. I wish my audience was 1,000 of this type, whatever that's going to be. Yeah. And clarify that in your head. And I have a certain process I use of different questions. It's really just trying to think through who they are, what are they dealing with? What would resonate with them? Trying to understand if you can Google it. It's called creating an ideal client avatar. You can Google it and find 1,000 of them. You can reach out to me and I'm happy to send you my template. But it's creating that and getting into their head and figuring out what does my ideal audience want from me? Like, what do they need to know? And then the other half of that is kind of what your podcast talks about, is knowing your why, knowing yourself. Like, how am I unique that I provide that? Like, why am I not the same as type in commercial real estate into LinkedIn search, and you'll have millions of people that will pop up. So how am I going to stand out from everyone else? And the answer is, like, you mentioned this to me in advance when we were kind of talking before the show started, like, we're each our own, like, story. Like, each one of us have our unique approach, our unique personality. Like, we'll connect with different types of people, even if we do the same thing, just because we're different. We have different backgrounds and different skill sets. And so kind of like knowing, like, who am I? How do I provide the solution? And then you combine those two parts of who am I targeting and who am I? And when you start thinking like that, you can approach LinkedIn so much more intentionally. where it's not just like, hey, how can I get people to see my post, which there are great tips and you can learn these things on, but it's more, how can I talk to my audience that I actually want to get in front of? What can I say to them that will make the right audience connect to me and want to engage with my posts and, want to reach out to me to create inbound leads? That's really a lot of what I like to focus on, more than all of the, the tricks. And I need to post at 9 a.m. or 11:30, 3 a.m., all the different tricks and stuff. In the end of the day, if you're consistent with kind of your bigger picture plan and you actually stick with it, which is the hard part, for a while, you'll find your audience, you'll get there. It always happens. The reason why most people fail isn't because they don't get enough, it's because it's hard and it takes work. And you saw that with your 10-day challenge, is you got to commit to it, and it does take time, but you can find ways to do it quicker and easier. We could talk about that a little bit. And just know that, it's going to take time and you got to put your time in.
Yeah. I mean, like anything else, right? You're trying to grow a business. If you need to figure out where the right place is to put your time, where, strategizing, it's not just, as you mentioned, you're strategizing your ideal avatar, you're strategizing, kind of who you want to reach and why you would be interesting to them, but also, like, you've got to come up with that plan, as you said, as to how you're going to make the work actually happen, right? And it's like I said it before we started recording, I was like, I don't know, are people just literally just sitting in front of LinkedIn all the time, and maybe they are, and it's working for them, but maybe you could talk about that a little bit, kind of what some of those strategies would be, and we'll definitely, as we get to the end, we'll definitely get your contact information for people who are looking for help in this area. So hopefully I imagine there's a lot of people that need help in this area, myself included, but what do you kind of look at as far as the strategy for, sort of just not getting overwhelmed by it?
Sure. So first of all, I would say decide how much time you want to spend on it and don't do more than that. Like, live within what you can do, because if not, you're just going to get burnt out again. We're talking about a long-term strategy. This is not like a quick fix. We're not running an ad for 2 weeks and seeing what happens with it. We're building a brand. And when you build a brand, that means, I always say LinkedIn's like a big networking event. If you show up to a networking event that goes on every day and you show up once a month, no one's going to know who you are. They're not going to. But if you show up consistently, over time, people start seeing you, frequently, and then they start just like meeting you and knowing you, and it's natural. So you still can't spend 3 hours a day, networking events without, what do you spend time on your business? So I always tell people, figure out what can you afford to spend on your long-term marketing efforts, right? Let's say it's a half an hour a day. Let's say it's an hour 3 times a week, whatever it is, figure out what works for you, and don't do more than that, because in the end, you're just going to fall off the train. That's just going to end up happening. So figure out what works for you. Now, within that time you have, if you have time, it really depends on what your struggle is. So for some people, the struggle is content creation. I would say, even if without anything, at a bare minimum, start looking for people in your niche, in your field, and engage on their posts. That's honestly the easiest way to start building a network and growing on LinkedIn. You don't even have to create content. Other people are doing that heavy lifting. They're creating content already. So if you find people that are in your general conversation and start engaging with them and engaging with other people in their comment section, because they're all talking about, relevant niche concepts, you can grow a lot by just showing up and talking and sharing your knowledge, your experience, your expertise, without doing any of your own self-creation. That's just like coming in and chatting. You could get a lot. I know people that I was talking to, like, a guy recently reached out to me. He said, hey, I see you do LinkedIn consulting. Here's what I'm doing currently. Is there anything you can add to this? And I said, the main thing I could really add, I'm like, what are you looking for now? And he told me his strategy right now, he used to be very content focused. He's purely just engaging with people now. And through engaging, he strikes up enough conversations on other people's posts that it's bringing him clients. And, I would add one caveat to this, which is it's important to bolster your profile page, because that's your profile page is really your sales page. Because when you're commenting on people's pages, on other people's content, once you start connecting with people, they're going to want to check you out. And the way they check you out on LinkedIn is they go to your profile page. And if you tell them, hey, I'm Moshe Segal. You can go check out mine if you want as an example. I do LinkedIn consulting. I can help you get your message out to the world. I can help you get inbound leads. I can help you grow on LinkedIn. So now if you were debating hanging out with me, it's very clear from my profile page what I do. If I just said, social media consulting and had no information, it's less likely you're going to reach out to me. So I would say, if you're overwhelmed by LinkedIn, number one, upgrade your profile page. I do have a service. If anyone's interested in that, I can give you a profile audit. We can work on that together. But update your profile page, get that optimized. That the basic question you want to tell yourself is, and we could focus on this if you want. I don't want to steer anywhere. You let me know where you want to go.
No,
but you want it to be super clear for your profile page that what exactly you do and how you help people and what you provide for them. Make that be super clear on your banner image, on your tagline, and on your about section. Everywhere you look, it's like nobody should have any doubt of how you can help them by the time they've read that. And that way, even if you're just engaging on other people's posts, and I say engaging, I don't mean just to clarify, hey, great post, nice idea, cool story. I mean like adding to the conversation, right? Not just, empty compliments, but if somebody gives like a commercial real estate deal they did, ask an interesting question. Oh, how did that play out? In the whatever with ABC, a real question, a real conversation. Imagine you're talking to a person and trying to start a conversation with them. Is kind of how I always tell people to engage in the comment section. Like, it's not a screen. You're talking to a person at a networking event. You wouldn't say nice sentence when they introduce themselves to you. You would engage. You would ask them back a question. You would start a conversation. So use that. So I tell people that are overwhelmed and you don't know where to start, I would say that's a great place to start. To start with the engagement, upgrade your profile page, and just find people that are creating content in your niche and focus on them.
Yeah. Makes a ton of sense. I actually saw, it's funny, not funny because it makes total sense, but I saw some post or something the other day that someone made about just that, your profile page and optimizing your profile page, and basically saying, like, if you don't put in your profile page what you will do for other people or help, that like the value that you provide to other people, then they don't care what you like. It's not like and it makes sense, right? It's like,
right.
People ultimately want, they want to connect with someone that can help them. And so it's like, it's just looking at all of those things just a little bit differently, where it's like, instead of, my profile saying I, it's like, for you, I can this, and like that kind of thing, like just a different, you're probably saying sort of the same things, but just the way that it applies to others.
Imagine in real estate where you come to someone's profile and they say, I don't know, $20 million under management, 500 doors under management, versus somebody saying, I can help you escape your corporate job through passive investment. Like, just think about how those two would resonate in an audience, for the person reading that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sort of getting away from the I guess, boasting versus, like opening yourself up to helping others is
I think also it comes from a lot of people used to view LinkedIn, and I think it's because that's how it started, more of like a resume. And like on your resume, I don't tell you how I'm going to help your company on my resume.
Right.
Right. Maybe you should, I don't know. But in general, you talk about what you accomplished and what you've done and your skill set. Right. So I feel like people used to use, your profile pages. This is my resume. I just tell you what I've done and what I've accomplished. But just the way LinkedIn works nowadays and the possibilities of networking and connecting with people, it has so much more potential than that. It's almost like a waste to limit it to that. Yeah.
Well, it's moved from, I guess, the resume phase to the interview phase. Right now, it's like you're actually should look at it as if you're talking to the prospective employer, client, whatever it is, relationship, and having, as you said, like having that conversation, and that's where you will tell them, even if someone's read your resume, like, you're not going to the interview to read them your resume again. You're going to them to tell you specifically how that resume makes things better for their company. Like, that's
100%.
It's just a matter of kind of shifting the way that you look at it and use it, and sort of put it out there. It really is kind of fascinating to see.
Right.
Do you think? Well, no, I was gonna ask, do you think LinkedIn's better than any of the other? But I guess it really just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Which of the
being intentional with what you want to do, figure out what you want, and what's the best place for that. For B2B, for networking, I mean, there's no, in my opinion, there's very little close to LinkedIn in that sense.
Yeah, makes total sense. All right. Well, let me switch gears, Moshe. I want to get to the part where I get to ask you all the questions that I ask each guest. They're not tricky, don't worry. First one, based on the name of the show being Know Your Why. What is your why? What kind of drives you? Obviously, you're looking to help people. So what is that? What goes into that? What's the the meaning for you?
It's funny. We talked about this a little bit earlier in terms of the community building aspect, kind of transferring from physical, community building to online community building. I often feel like I have certain clients that I'm talking to them, and I'm just like, I feel like I should be paying you to talk to you. Like, you're doing such awesome stuff. Like, you're helping people and you're building businesses that like make a real difference in the world. And I like to like interact with you and like, okay, I know I'm helping, I'm providing value, but sometimes I just like, I view it as like, wow, like I'm just like fortunate that I get to provide value to people whose missions I connect with also, and like I can really get behind. So I would say like a part of my why is sure, generic sense, it's helping people and it's growing, but it's also like providing people, especially I love working with people that just have shared values with, and similar types of growth and meaning beyond just making money and beyond just like you have like a certain like meaning in life and vision for what you want your company to do and how you can help people. It's fun to be able to to help them get their message out and help them be able to connect with people that once I connect this person with that audience, like they're helping them, like it's making a difference to their clients, not just to them by helping their business. But I haven't really dealt with anyone that I don't believe in their product yet, so I guess it would be different if someone was scamming someone or something like that. But I mean, if you have a real solution that you believe in, the most amazing thing you could do is to give people give that to people. It's like you're not just in sales, you're in sales because you believe that your product will genuinely help them. So my why is really that. In community building, in my first kind of rendition of community building, it was finding more outside of the professional sense, more in the personal sense of finding a place of meaning for your family, a place of growth for yourself, for your kids. Here, it's really not that different. It's helping people find that, almost like find the same thing, finding their why in their business and being able to connect their why, their journey, their growth to their audience and sell their product and help people through that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. I think that perspective on it of, you're working with people that, you're excited, you're passionate to work with them. Their mission sort of speaks to you. And, you said you haven't, had to work with anybody that you didn't really believe in their product. And I would probably argue that there's no reason to do that, right? Like
100%. I've referred people to my clients for their services multiple times just because like I believe in them. I'm like, I have one client who's like a life coach I just get content from him and I'm like, what you're doing with people is awesome. Like you're literally changing their lives. Like this is amazing. So if I think someone's relevant, like, it's relevant, someone in a heartbeat, I'll say, hey, go talk to this guy. He's gonna improve your life. Like, why not? Like that's awesome that I get to play a role on all sides of that.
Right. Yeah, no, it's so cool to be like be in that connector type of position and just like helping people in multiple directions.
Right.
Second question for you. Tell me something about yourself that maybe isn't common knowledge, special skill, a hobby, something just to let the audience know you a little better.
Yeah, well, I guess we already spoke about, most people on LinkedIn probably don't know that I was a communal rabbi for many years, but I think in this podcast by now, they probably already discovered that.
Yeah.
So that's probably not such a knowledge. I think as people don't know, I love playing basketball. Actually, it's interesting. When I was a rabbi, it was didn't really have much time for that. It was much more 24/7. So now I've fit that back in, which is a lot of fun. I enjoy getting back to that. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the biggest surprise to people was normally that, the jump from being someone who's much more inner, kind of in a religious community focused to something much more social media focused is, I haven't seen so many of them, but
yeah,
like we mentioned, it's not as wild as you might think once you kind of look at the inside of it.
Right. Yeah, it's just crazy. I mean, I feel the same. Like I'm a veterinary surgeon in real estate, and it's like those, it's like that's not typically what you think peanut butter and jelly. Like they don't necessarily go together, but at the same time, like I'm finding there's so many, no matter what your background is, and I find this from other guests as well, it's like, no matter what your background is, it has prepared you for whatever the next steps in life are, like whether that's business or marriage, kids, whatever. Like if you think about it and you sort of take a step back and say, okay, wait, what I did before, may have had a title, but what am I really doing? And that's like, as you mentioned, you had that career consultant, like kind of put it that way. And it's like, yeah, of course, that's exactly, like, that makes total sense, right? It's like, of course, I was building communities, like I'll just do that online, that kind of thing. It does make sense to have that, to really take a close look at what your past, sort of really set you up for moving forward.
Right. And in addition, it's like kind of playing off what you just said. It also what stands you apart in your field. Like, hey, how many other veterinary surgeons are doing commercial real estate on LinkedIn? So like use that. I don't like use it in like a bad way, but like, it's stand apart. Like, what did you learn? Like, what are the lessons you learned from veterinarian life to real estate life? I'm sure there's stuff,
right?
And nobody else can talk about that other than probably you.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. All right. So I'm sure people are going to want to reach out to you. What's the best way?
So honestly, the easiest way, you can find me on LinkedIn, Moshe Segal, MOSHE type it in. If you want, I actually just finally got around to, I'm making myself a landing page. So you can go to moshesegal.card.co. That's MOSHESEGAL.CARRD.co. And you can find me there, but honestly, I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So that's always a good place to find me.
Yeah. Makes sense based on your business. Okay. And we'll put that stuff in the show notes too. So people have it.
Awesome.
Final question for you. What is a piece of advice you would give to someone who, and a lot of times I'm saying getting started in real estate, but sort of getting started in real, I guess we can apply it to any business, but just trying to get their foot in the door, the first steps they might take to expanding their LinkedIn connections?
Yeah, great question. I think it's probably the same with real estate or with anything. What I would suggest, LinkedIn is one example of that, but that is find a mentor. That's really it doesn't, if you want to hire a coach, sure, that often speeds it up, but you don't even need to do that. When I was starting, I reached out to a lot of LinkedIn consultant, ghostwriter type of people, and I just said, hey, I'm interested in getting involved in this field. It's kind of what I've been doing until now. Would you be open to having a chat? Can we talk for 20 minutes, a half an hour? And some, be ready. Some people were just like, no. Not everyone is friendly and helpful, which is fine. Everyone's busy with the time. I'm not judging anyone. But you will find people that will say, yeah, sure. I remember I had one guy who has a pretty big company, big following on LinkedIn. He does LinkedIn consulting. I think he has like 30 people working for him. And he said, you know how I got here? I got here because people helped me get to where I am. And I'm always happy to pass that forward and speak with somebody else. And he gave me lots of advice and tips. And what I would tell someone who's starting in any field is find people that have done it. Don't jump people that are like 20 years ahead of you, because it's just over your head. But find someone who's a little bit ahead of you, has been through the experience you're experiencing, and just try to network. Try to find them. Try to just reach out. Don't be scared. Reach out. Be like, hey, can we jump on a quick call? Explain yourself. Don't just ask for a quick call, because a lot of times people will just be like, why? Like, why? If you say, hey, this person actually mentioned that to me. He said, people ask me all the time to jump on calls with them, but I just assume by default they're trying to sell me something. But since you said I'm trying to build up a business, I want to know, I'm wondering if you'd help me for a little bit. So I was happy to do that. So I'd say the same thing, reach out to someone, say exactly why, if you can make it a little personal. I followed your journey for a little bit. I really like the content you're putting out. I'm trying to figure out, I'm in real estate and I'm trying to create LinkedIn content. Do you have a little bit of time to chat real estate? I'm venturing to guess many people would be happy to help out people that are behind them, because most of us had people that did that for us. Yeah. And that's what I would tell people is, don't be scared of reaching out, and just go for it. What's the worst thing that happens? They say no.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a great point. I mean, again, it's something that probably could apply to whether it's getting more proficient in LinkedIn or in real estate or anything really. Like, find those people that can help you, sort of take those steps is a really great
Right. Just don't waste your time recreating the wheel. Like people, it just saves so much time and frustration.
Yeah, right. It's very likely somebody's already done it. So just take advantage of that.
Exactly. They want to help you. There's a lot of good people in the world, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that honestly, that's probably one of my biggest take homes from that LinkedIn challenge is just like how like gracious so many people were with like their tips, and like, someone like messaged me and was like, hey, a little bit of unsolicited advice. I hope you don't take. I was like, no, please, I'm not upset at like literally like very thankful that happened. And it's like, you have to, I guess, be willing to hear. You've got to be willing to hear the no's. You got to be willing to hear the constructive criticism to grow. And it's just like, it was so cool just to see how like everybody kind of supported each other and stuff during that. So it was very.
Yes, I would add on also, now that you're mentioning that, one of the things that I found on LinkedIn much more is it's a much more supportive environment also than a lot of other social medias in terms of just the general toxicity versus support. I mean, overall on LinkedIn, you see stuff and you unfollow them, whoever you don't want to be part of. But in general, it's such a supportive community. People are really working together, building businesses up. It's a much more positive social media experience than what you often find on a lot of other ones.
Yeah, you don't really hear about like LinkedIn haters. It's not like
it's not. I mean, you can come across these things here and there, and whatever. You get a lot of spammy DMs and stuff, but in the overall, far less than anywhere else. Yeah,
absolutely. Awesome. Well, listen, Moshe, thank you so much for coming on today, taking the time out. I feel like you gave a ton of really, really actionable tips for people. So thank you for coming. Thank you for taking the time out. I truly appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Awesome being here. And just offers open. Anyone needs help, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks listening, I know you're going to get a ton of value out of this episode. Please like, rate, and review us so we can get more great guests like Moshe. And thank you, as always, for listening.
I'd like to show you why knowing your why is the start of your journey. Without a strong why, it can be so difficult to reach your maximum potential. My name is Dr. Jason Balara, and every week I meet with real estate investors and mindset specialists that are taking action in order to build a life according to their own terms. We will break down what drives successful people and allows them to achieve at such a high level. If you are a professional wanting to break through, or simply someone that wants to hear an inspiring story, the Know Your Why podcast is made for you.